Mauga, Brig, and Juno. The three horsemen of the apocalypse are back. Week 2 of Perks and OWCS has found a pretty clear meta, at least for now. And it's shades of the same kind of stuff we have been playing, at least around when Juno came out, right? We were in a hazard meta for a little bit, but then that started going away, kind of more favor for Ball, and then Perks have kind of shook everything up. Ball looking like a very strong choice, Hazard still looking like a good choice, but it's becoming very clear that Mauga comps are king yet again. So, I'm going to run through the Mauga comp a little bit here, and I'm also going to talk about how the perks are really playing into this, right? Like, how does the Mauga comp work? And what perks do you typically take, or what the pros are taking, right? What's kind of the theory there? Typically when I do a competitive Overwatch like analysis, I like to have timestamps about when things happen to give you specific examples. But I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I've been pretty busy trying to get my setup back in order. I've been having some technical issues, so I haven't had as much time to really get that all settled. But I will talk about, certain things and try and pause it when I see them. But basically, what is this Mauga comp doing, right? Like, what is the purpose of this? Well, it's typical Mauga, like, brawl, a slower brawl. Obviously Juno Ring allows, and we'll start there, right? So Mauga is very, very fast. He's very bursty, right? He's got the overrun. Very good synergy with the Juno Ring, right? Very often you're going to see the Mauga run through the ring and start the engage super, super fast, super loud. And Mauga, of course, gets damage reduction on his run, and he gets the cardiac value, which is, healing and damage reduction. So Mauga is allowed to just kind of like set the tempo and kind of like press the advantage like super, super hard, right? That's kind of where the comp starts. From there, of course, you still need to protect your backline, right? Like Mauga is trying to get on the backline. You typically run very mobile DPS. You're seeing Echo, Genji, and Sojourn, which we'll talk a little bit about where those characters are good later, but those are the ones that can get away. Juno obviously is very mobile, and then Brig is there to protect the Juno, or really whoever else is going to need it, just in case, right? Just because of Mauga's insane burst and, mobility to start an initiation, Brig is there as that pretty, like, good defensive, bunker, right? Brig works really well in just kind of like keeping Mauga value away from her, right? She's pretty survivable against a Mauga. She can bash away when he's about to slam. She can pull up her shield so she doesn't get burnt, and Mauga can't build a lot off of her. I think that's also pretty important, when he's choosing targets to go on and to focus. So that's kind of like where Brig's role is. And of course the DPS. One DPS is trying to poke out, at least in this meta, we're in Mauga mirrors, one DPS is typically going to be poking out the other Mauga. The Sojourn is extremely good for this super high clip velocity. You charge on the Mauga, he can't do any damage reduction, or mitigation rather, and you get free rail shots to just go balls to the wall, do whatever you want with it. The Echo is kind of coming in, over characters we've seen in the past, like Sim or Venture or Pharah. Echo is coming in because she does a lot of damage, but she also has a very, very good copy on the other Mauga, right? And I think that's really important, right? Because Venture, was great to assassinate the squishies and stuff, but that was before we had Juno. And in these comps, Venture is going to struggle trying to, assassinate the Juno. In fact, the Genji was kind of struggling to put pressure on the Mauga as well that Echo can. Echo can do a lot, and Genji is going to focus a lot less on the tank. And I think that's really important for the resource game that you have to play with Mauga, right? So, yeah, that's kind of like where the other characters are being favored less. Echo is being favored a lot more because she just puts a lot more pressure on Mauga as well. Both her and Sojourn are very versatile in the pressure that they provide, either on, the tank or the squishies, the backline, and they're mobile, they're flankers. You've got a lot there, right? Now, apparently some teams were running some Bastion, I believe, just in some scenarios. I'm not going to put a lot of credence into that until I see it more often with my eyes. But that is, the Mauga pressure, maybe not so much the backline pressure. But, yeah, let's start with the perks here because, I think the comp plays, it's pretty standard, right? Like, if you've been watching anything, you're going to kind of understand where this is. But I think the reason why these characters are starting to become really, really picked more often is because of which perks they have. We have to start with Mauga himself. Now, hopefully I can find some Mauga gameplay, which is, always fun to watch, I'm sure. But really what I want to show is like the perks that you pick, especially in this mirror. Of course, every time they change them to a Mauga, it's an Echo who's duplicated. Come on, show me a real Mauga. But, there we go. So you can see it right there on the bottom right here. These are his perks. He has taken Twin Hearts, and he's taken whatever this one is called. It's the one that gives you overhealth when you cardiac after doing some damage. Now, I think Firewalker is a good perk. You will never see the Maugas take Firewalker. Why? Because it's very easy to set up the damage, the fire damage on, especially another Mauga in the mirror. But basically, it's just sustain. It is two extremely good sustain abilities. Twin Hearts just gives you 20 health per second when you're on an objective. A lot of times Mauga is going to be playing an objective, especially, we're watching, what's it called? Flashpoint here, right? A lot of fights are going to be taking place on the objective, and you can kind of force fights to happen on the objective as well, because Mauga doesn't have that much trouble getting in. And a lot of times also the other team, since they're playing Mauga with the same perk, they kind of want to fight on the objective as well. It's a weird balance there. The other perk, of course, being the one that gives him overhealth. It's just more good sustain value, right? That is really, really nice because he goes in, he takes a little bit of damage, he builds up very quickly onto that 100, he gets that 100 overhealth, he pops it, and then he's getting, healing through the overhealth as it's burning down, even though he's taking a lot of damage too. And that's kind of, again, there's so much healing per second or effective health on this Mauga character at any time that you need these super high, like, damage options that some of the other DPS don't provide. And that'll, put us into the DPS perks here, right? There's actually a little bit of, like, trying to figure out what is the best here. Some teams are playing Sojourn with the extended mag because that's a lot of pressure most of the fight, right? Onto the Mauga or anybody else. Total DPS, very good. But I think a lot of teams are also starting to move over to the overclocked one as well, because that is really good pressure. And, there is merit in trying to cut through the sustain, but if you can do so much burst damage during your ult that you ignore some of the sustain, and not just Mauga sustain, but I'm talking Juno ult, I'm talking Brig ult, right? You can kind of get through those without having to trade both your support ults and your cages like bashing into each other all at once, when you could kind of completely avoid that in some scenarios. I think that is going to end up being the better option. I think that just saves the ult economy a lot more. And of course, being able to one-shot is crazy, and just being able to chunk through these super high sustain characters, I think, is really, really valuable. The other perk that I think a lot of Sojourns are starting to take is the Adhesive Siphon, because yes, it does less damage if you like put it on them directly, but just being able to keep your big survivability with your jump, you have the vertical mobility, which you need because you can get away from Mauga, but if the Echo is there, you can still kind of like contest the Echo and contest those high grounds. I think that's really, really important in this comp in particular, so you need to, to clear those. The Adhesive Siphon, you keep your vertical mobility without taking the double lateral one. The Adhesive Siphon gives you a way to pressure these comps that are moving super, super quickly and force all this damage on them, and you can provide really easy follow-ups. Especially a lot of these comps play together, and the Adhesive Siphon allows that extra, damage over time, which is counter sustain, right? It kind of counteracts the sustain value that you get from all of this AoE, healing that Mauga and Brig are providing to the team. I think that's also really, really important. In terms of Echo, hopefully I can find a little bit of Echo footage here before we go on. Echo is taking perks that, you know, it's kind of interesting because her minor perks would normally give you what I would say a cool decision about how you want to upgrade your duplicate. But when you're playing mirrors, there is no decision. You definitely don't pick the one that lets you, you know, target your allies for dupe, because you always have that option available to you on the other team. You definitely want to take the duration extension when you get an ultimate. For Mauga, duplicating Mauga, that's very good. And you know what I mean? It's very, very good that you can extend the duration of your ult, because you get a cage fight and then you get to be in the cage for longer, right? And keep them in the cage and keep the Mauga value. That's really, really important in my opinion. So that's kind of like where Echo's minor perks come. There aren't really that many decisions. Now the major perk, I've mainly seen them take the flight cooldown one. I thought that the full salvo would be really good just for that extra damage, but it looks like the Echoes are really trying to play into like the teamwork aspect, where somebody gets somebody low, Echo finishes off the kill with the beam, and then gets another beam back, or sorry, gets another fly back, so then she kind of continues, right? And she can like get in and get out. I think a lot of times these Mauga comps, or like the older Mauga comps, really struggle to actually kill things outside of the ult fight, and I think we're seeing more and more that a lot of teams are trying to find ways with their perks to find these kills without having to really use ults or go super risky, right? And I think that's actually really, really important. Something else that is really important, and Luke Mino has swapped to Kiri, which I definitely don't think is the right answer. We can talk about the backliners. Now, I think that the Brig perks, you know, morale boost is really nice for a comp that's super mobile. Yes, I understand that I think morale boost is overrated. I still think it's very good, and especially for a comp where Brig doesn't need her whip shot so much for defense, because the characters aren't like as affected by it, especially like a Mauga or something, then she can use her whip shot more aggressively and use it for the morale boost more often. That is definitely something. To be completely honest with you, I assume that they're taking the quick fix break pack one. I haven't seen much POV from it. The Juno perks, Familiar Vitals is literally just the best minor perk in the game. It's that overtime sustain value. You definitely need that with these Mauga comps. It just plays into it really well. And then, of course, you pick the Meta Blaster headshot one, because that's more damage to try to eat into all that sustain, because you get extra damage from the headshots. Mauga is an easy headshot. Juno might not have many opportunities outside of that. So that is kind of like where the perks lie, right? That is this comp. It's basically, I think that these perks are being picked because of the mirror, right? I think there's some world where some of them change depending on like what other, like what they are running. You know, maybe Brig takes a different one because they're playing a hazard comp. I doubt it. If they were playing like a Tracer, you know, maybe you play something a little like if they were playing Divier or like faster, you know, with like a brawlier style, maybe Sojourn picks the double lateral to escape more often. I'm not exactly sure. But I think that's like why these perks are being picked, why these comps are being picked. Of course, just these characters are really good. There were no general balance changes in the last patch. So as people figure out perks, you know, the characters that were good are still going to be good. And they're, you know, going to figure out Mauga was still good at the end of the last patch. I mean, it was, he wasn't the best, I don't think, but he definitely was good. And giving him 2 perks that increase his survivability, it's like, okay, man, like, what are we up to? You know, like, what are we doing here? So that's kind of like where my head is at least with like how this comp plays. Now, I wish I could give you some detailed analysis about like how each team played the comps, or like what is like really winning them out, right? I would assume that like the most effective comps are the ones that like you find good damage early, you know, in the poking phase, and you kind of press the advantage. You want to be taking those angles. You want to be trying to kind of surround the team, right? In the ult fight, you've got to be okay with like burning a lot of ults, you know, your support ults stacking to counter them. Trying to build like a cage early so you can force out like the, what's it called? Like the Ray or the rally. Because I think that you can really press the advantage if you get the, you get the advantage there right? That could be something. It's just standard, right? I think, go watch an OC video if you really want that like super deep competitive analysis, because I haven't been watching as much. And I just kind of wanted to kind of get my thoughts out about like how this is playing, what it is. Do I like it? No one likes a Mauga mirror. Like, listen, Mauga being good is one thing, but a Mauga mirror is just boring, right? Like, I think we kind of all agree on that. So, it does kind of suck. Teams were very anti-banning Mauga, I believe, in NA because they just want to play it. I understand why they're trying to win the game, right? And they're not trying to like eliminate the strategies that they've been practicing. That does make sense to me. But it does kind of suck a little bit. I think hero bans are really nice when there's like clashing styles. But when you just play the same stuff, it does kind of suck. Ooh, that was a really nice flank from Sugar Free there. And then he just goes right in. So, oh my god, look at all. See, do you see, like, this is a perfect, like, ult fight. What's going on? Nobody's dying. Nobody's taking any damage. There's two Maugas shooting the same guy, but that Mauga has, full health the entire time, even through that engage. And yeah, finding picks early is crucial. Like, finding picks without the ults, because the ults kind of all, like, negate each other. I think that is, like, where this is, like, trying to get through. It's, like, trying to avoid these ults is how these fights are going to be won. So I actually think that, yes, Mauga is the center of the survivability, but I think the DPS are the focus about, like, how you actually get something done is going to be with these DPS. I'm not going to, keep going any longer. I think I've probably said my piece here. Please like and subscribe if you like this video, but I want to hear back from you guys. What do you guys actually think? Do you like this comp? But like, what do you think is actually going to continue to be meta? We've seen a couple of other things, ball comps. I think Korea is playing some different stuff. They don't like the Mauga as much. What do you guys think going forward? I'd love to hear back from you guys. I stream live on Twitch and YouTube, twitch.tv/LaneHemingway. That's Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. If you want some extra videos, that's going to be my memberships down below. Everything you need to know about me and when I'm going live and everything, that is going to be my Discord. I'm not live this week just because I'm trying to catch up on some stuff, get my setup working again. So I hope you understand. I'll be back next week. I would hope. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Please have a good day. I'm going to go play some Monster Hunter if I get some time. All right, peace.